Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Good morning.
Please
Good morning.
welcome. Thank you for joining.
So I think we will wait 2 or 3 minutes more before we start. And maybe, Anila, you can already mention the live captioning.
Yes.
Someone want to use it?
Yeah. Thank you, people, for joining this. While we are waiting, I just want to share we have a live captioning option. So if you can see the screen, they are already mentioning how you can use it, closed captioning. So you can turn on, go to your meeting controls, and the top of the screen, select languages. Do you want French, Arabic, um, uh, German, or Italian, or Spanish? So you can see the caption and then you can read it. And even I love the caption information is also in different languages. So you can read which language you feel more comfortable. Thank you. Again, we're just waiting maybe 1 more minute before we start. We already have 21 people, including myself.
And maybe if you can add in the chat your name and your affiliation, organization, and title.
And you are coming from, I know it will be a very global engagement we're gonna have. Somewhere is early morning, somewhere is evening. Like I am in Netherlands, is kind of midday. Thank you so much from Brazil, Geneva. Yes, thank you. South Sudan. Wow, nice. Good. So few more seconds, then we'll start. Right, Rata? I'm just checking. Yeah, few more seconds. And who are just joining us, I'm just wanna repeat, you can use the closed captioning in your system because we don't have interpretation, but we have a live caption. So you can read the instruction and to turn on the caption do you want in your own preference of the language you feel comfortable with. Hi, Clara, welcome.
Hi, everyone.
maybe if we can cross-check. Anila, are you still here with us, or have we lost you? I just can't see you in the name list anymore.
I think she seemed to have dropped off. I don't know if Najiba, if you want to fill in for her until she's back.
Okay, so maybe I'll do that. It's a shame that that has happened. So maybe just for the sake of time and knowing that we are 5 minutes past, we'll get us started. Hi, everyone. My name is Najiba Wazifadost, and I am from the Asia Pacific Network of Refugees, commonly known as APNOR. And I would like to take the opportunity to welcome you all to probably the first session on community of practice advancing refugee influence across GRF pledges. I know that for some of you it's afternoon or late evening, and for some of you it might be morning. So again, good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. And I can understand how busy some of you could be, or some of you, I think, in Europe are taking summer break. So again, we really do appreciate the time and commitment that you put in to be in today's session with us. Anila, if you're back online,
Yes,
please come in. Please,
yeah, I have
I
no
hand over to
idea.
you.
Thank you so much, Najiba, for covering. I have no idea what happened on the right moment with my internet. So sorry, I apologize. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Anila Noor, and I am happy to be co-chairing this session of community practice. Um, and we really want to have this moment of connection and to learning and from each other. As a co-lead of multi-stakeholder of Pledge of Meaningful Participation, I'm super happy. And if you can share the agenda, so we all the people who are here, they can understand how this will engagement will look like. So this is the welcoming and setting the stage of the time from 12 to 12:15, where my colleague will share how and why we are meeting together. And then we'll have a session of interactive dialogue and exchange from 12:45 to 1:20. We have, trust me, amazing speakers who gonna come and share different practices, challenges, and opportunity in their own engagement. And then from 12:15 to 12:45, we have a more a discussion or perspective of GRF pledge ecosystem. And then from 1:20 to 1:30, we will have a closing and the discussion of how we're gonna follow up the discussion of commitment and ambition we are generating in this session today. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. And for we start, I will want to invite Mr. Ziad Ayad, a Senior Policy Officer from Global Compact of Refugee GCR section from UNHCR, for our welcoming remarks. So Ziad, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. Thanks for everyone for joining. Thank you for the flexibility with the time, as we had to change it to accommodate. And the fact that the flexibility is an indication of the fact that there's such a strong level of commitment by so many actors to have attended this this session. So thanks so much on behalf of the GCR section and the co-leads of the multi-stakeholder pledge on meaningful refugee participation. I'm very pleased to welcome you for this inaugural session of the Community of Practice on Advancing Refugee Influence across Global Refugee Forum pledges. My name is Ziad Ayad. I work very closely on the GRF pledge process. I'm super pleased to be attending this meeting. I'm very pleased to see how much meaningful refugee participation as an idea, as a concept, as a practice, has advanced and grown and has become so not only embedded, mainstream, but I would say prioritized across the spectrum, across a wide range of actors. And it's actually encouraging to see so many diverse groups of actors here today, but not only here today, but engaging in this topic so closely, from refugee-led organizations, governments, civil society actors, UNHCR, international organizations, and so many others within the GCR community. And not only as pledgers, but as multi-stakeholder pledge leads, as engaged actors, and also, of course, as GCR champions overall. So we're very pleased to be participating today launching this community of practice, and this practice, in fact, the community of practice is a recognition that meaningful refugee participation is not the responsibility of just one pledging entity alone. It doesn't speak to one pledge alone. It truly is cross-cutting, and in many ways we've experienced how cross-cutting it actually is. As we look towards the next GRF next year, preparations are already underway, and we really want to create a space where we can learn from one another, exchange practical experiences, discuss challenges, and collectively identify solutions. And I think today is a very good start, and sets a very good foundation for exactly that. So within this MRP community and at UNHCR, we often speak of participation, and perhaps it's also essential when we speak of participation, we also speak about influence. So participation is no doubt important, it's essential, but alone it's not enough. So the question we increasingly ask ourselves is how do we ensure that refugee participation actually influences the decisions, priorities, programs, policies, resources, and the overall pledging mechanism? Moving from participation to influence is an ambition that underpins this community of practice. And it is also influences, in fact, all things we are doing when it comes to the development of a dedicated pledging framework that will define what pledges will look like in the lead up to the next Global Refugee Forum. So the topic itself, discussions like this, all inform not only how pledges will look, how they're developed, but all the preparations leading to Global Refugee Forum 2027. And perhaps it's worth noting that good progress has already been made, as indicated or as witnessed at the Global Refugee Forum progress review meeting last December. We saw strong engagement of people with lived experience throughout the process, increased collaboration with refugee-led organizations, valuable lessons on how participation can be embedded more systematically. But we also know that significant work remains. We need to continue expanding opportunities for refugee leadership, improving accountability and better understanding, as well as measuring the impact that meaningful refugee participation has on overall decision making. So this community of practice is an opportunity for us to build on the progress together. It's a space for peer learning, honest conversation, and for practical solutions. So please feel free to use today's session to be as interactive as the session allows. And this year is a bit of a unique year in the fact that it is the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the 51 Convention. It's also the year of the High Commissioner's Dialogue, which will be the first of High Commissioner Barham Saleh's since assuming his role. And several dialogues will be held in the lead up to the High Commissioner's Dialogue itself. And the MRP topic will be significantly embedded throughout the lead up to the end of the year. So you will have seen or you will see additional communications on how you can engage, how this topic will be further embedded at the thematic level, but also across the board. And as we look to next year, as we look towards the next Global Refugee Forum, we are keen on seeing it as one where we've made significant learnings from the first GRF, the second GRF, and really trying to see the third GRF as one that demonstrates that meaningful refugee participation has become the norm across the GRF ecosystem, where it's not only about participation, but it's also about genuine influence over the decisions that affect refugees' lives. So I really hope, and I remain confident, of course, that this discussion today is the beginning of that journey, that this community of practice becomes a platform where we continue learning from one another. I congratulate you all for all the work that you've done collectively as leads of the pledge, but also as pledgers and people and actors that have truly taken on this topic, embedded it, and made it a real and practical and concrete reality. So I thank you for having given me the time to present these thoughts, and I pass back to Najiba, who will introduce the objectives of the community of practice and guide us through today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ziad, and I hope my internet is well enough to for everyone to hear me. So once again, I just reintroduced myself. I'm Najiba from APNOR, and again, a real pleasure to see such a diverse group of colleagues joining us today. Again, I can see representatives from governments that we have worked in the past and currently working, UNHCR, RLOs, civil society, and academia, and other partners. So thank you so much for taking part to be part of today's discussion, which we think is quite important in terms of collaborative space for learning and exchange. So I think, as Ziad mentioned already, today's sessions really marks the launch of the community of practice on advancing refugee influence across the GRF pledges. So while this is still our first gathering, the conversation that have led us here have been taking place over many months and in many different settings. Some of you are quite aware that over the past year, APNO, along with the rest of the MR colleagues, working very closely with UNHCR to support efforts to strengthen and mainstream meaningful refugee participation across the GRF architecture. And, that work has taken in many forms. Together we have been engaged with, we've tried to engage with pledge entities, governments, RLOs, through technical support, capacity strengthening, even through the stock-taking exercise, and the practical discussions on how meaningful refugee participation can be better reflected within the implementation of the GRF commitments. So I think one of the most significant moments in that journey was the preparation for and reflection following the GRF Progress Review meeting last December. As we listened to many diverse stakeholders, including governments and the UN agency itself, including refugee leaders, I think reflected on their progress, one observation became increasingly clear. And the challenge was not, again, a lack of commitment, across sectors. There's now a broad recognition that refugees should participate meaningfully in the policies, programs, and decisions that affect their lives. In many ways, we have moved beyond asking whether meaningful refugee participation matters. That conversation has shifted. And the real question now is, how do we make it happen consistently, thoughtfully, and in the way that genuinely influence decisions? And that's exactly what Ziad was mentioning earlier. So that shift may seem subtle, but it is significant. It represents the difference between recognizing a principle, institutionalizing a practice. And again, through the past year, we heard remarkably similar questions emerging from every different context. How do we know whether participation is genuinely meaningful rather than symbolic? How do we create institutional systems that enable refugee perspectives to shape decisions rather than simply informing them? How do we ensure that conversation around MRP doesn't stay only within the MRP pledge itself, but it's actually mainstreamed, tracked, progress, referenced in all of the GRF pledges? How do we move from these isolated examples of good practices towards approaches that can be really sustained, adapted and replicated? So basically, these questions not only came from governments or UN agencies, but equally from refugee-led organizations as well and the civil society partners. So although they were working in different contexts and under different mandates, many were grappling with remarkably similar challenges. And again, I think across the refugee response, what I need to say is that there is, an increasing body of experience, innovation, and practical knowledge on meaningful refugee participation, but yet too often that knowledge remains quite fragmented. Valuable lessons are developed within individual organizations or within individual countries or sectors, but they're rarely shared in the way that allows others to build upon them. So this community of practice is our response to that challenge. It's not intended to be another coordination mechanisms or another reporting process. Rather, it is designed, as a collaborative learning space where we all collectively, whether you're government or refugee leaders or civil society, can engage as peers, sharing experiences honestly, reflecting on the challenges, exchanging practical approach, and collectively strengthening, the quality of participation across the GRF. So I'm sure for everyone, the journey has evolved, quite differently. For some, quite innovative. For some, still remains challenging. But I think what we are hoping to do is that ensure that through this platform, you're able to support each other's institution to understand what MRP looks like in practice. But more importantly, as I said, how can it be embedded within the systems, policies, and organizational culture? And this is why today's discussion becomes even more important, because, we want to help move the conversation beyond aspiration and towards implementation. We want to reinforce something that we have long believed. Refugee participation is not the responsibility of refugee-led organization alone. It is a shared responsibility that requires shared leadership, shared commitment, and shared continuous learning across all the sectors. So again, what I would like to really end with is that the strength of the community of practice which we're speaking on will not come from representations or webinars such as these alone. Its value comes from the collective experiences represented in this room right now and in the future sessions. I think everyone brings very distinct perspectives, including RLOs with their lived experience and community knowledge. So what we hope to do is over the coming months, we hope that the community of practice becomes a place where difficult questions can be explored more openly, where successes can be shared more honestly, and where challenges can be discussed without hesitation, and where practical solutions emerge, again, through collaboration rather than prescription. So today's session is therefore only the beginning, and we hope that moving forward, we will be able to shape this community together, and again ensuring that we are centering, the people and affected communication and the affected population and the forced displaced individuals while making any decision, even within this community of practice. So again, thank you very much. I'm going to leave you in the good hands of my colleagues. And again, thank you for joining. We look forward to learning from you, learning from each other, and building this community of practice together. And without further ado, I would like to hand over to my colleague Brian from Independent Diplomat, who will guide us through the next part of today's program. Over to you, Brian. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Najiba. And I'd also just like to offer my own welcome and thanks to all the friends and colleagues taking your time to join us here today. To kick off our community of practice first session, we thought to have first a moderated panel discussion. As colleagues before me have mentioned, obviously MRP as a norm has really grown a lot since 2019, the official launch of the MRP pledge. But the ultimate and fundamental aim of the pledge has always been to embed meaningful refugee participation across various levels of work and across the entire refugee response ecosystem. But we know that what MRP looks like across these different levels will differ. And therefore, we wanted to really spotlight how different stakeholders do it and what it looks like in their pledges in their own areas of work. So that is the core question that we hope to have the panel reflect on in this segment. We are very fortunate to have a very full and diverse panel. We have representatives from co-leaderships of 3 different multi-stakeholder pledges: the localization, family reunification, and legal community pledge. And we also have representatives from the governments of New Zealand and the UK. Just some very quick house rules before we kick off. We obviously want this to be a very informal and peer learning space, so we will go really light-handed on the formalities. But we do have an interactive dialogue coming up that we want to leave sufficient time for, so we do ask speakers as much as possible to keep to the 4-minute allocated time. We will do our best to not hard cut off anyone, but I just might gently nudge us on using my moderator privilege. If folks in the general room has any questions or reflections, we encourage you to save them for the interactive dialogue coming up or put them in the chat. So now I would like to first invite our first speaker, Paul Kathima from Bondeko Refugee Livelihood Center from Uganda. Paul will be speaking from the perspective of the localization pledge. And Paul, handing over to you.
Thank you, Brian. I would like to say that localization is about strengthening equitable partnership with local and national actors. I would like to distinguish, first of all, between localization and meaningful refugee participation. So localization is about strengthening equitable partnerships with local and national actors, including civil society, government, and the private sector. It aims to shift decision-making, resources, and capacity so that responses are rooted in the knowledge and expertise and leadership of those closest to forced displacement responses. Meaningful refugee participation, by contrast, is about the rights of refugees themselves, as recognized under the Global Compact on Refugees, to participate in and influence decisions that affect their lives at local, national, regional, and global levels. This can happen through individual engagement, community structures, advisory mechanisms, collective initiatives, or refugee-led organizations. These agendas are distinct but mutually reinforcing. Refugee-led organizations represent an important point of convergence. They are local actors within localization efforts and can also enable refugees to exercise collective leadership, representation, and influence. At the same time, localization creates the resources, recognition, and institutional space needed for refugee participation to move beyond consultation and become sustained influence. Within the multi-stakeholder pledge on advancing localization in displacement and statelessness responses, this relationship is increasingly reflected in practice. Today, individual pledges include 48 commitments worth over $104 million, supporting 922 local and national organizations, more than half of them led by displaced and stateless persons themselves. 21% of pledges specifically target women-led organizations. 75% commit to two-way capacity sharing, not just one-directional capacity building. These commitments demonstrate progress towards more equitable partnerships, shared ownership, and greater participation in decision-making. However, significant gaps remain. In 2024, local actors received only a tiny percentage of global humanitarian funding, while direct funding to refugee-led organizations remains extremely limited. Without predictable, flexible, and accessible resources, participation risks remaining symbolic rather than transformative. Some donors have introduced positive measures, including requirements for intermediaries to share in direct cost recovery with local partners for organizational strengthening. However, this cannot replace direct and sustainable funding for refugee-led and other local organizations. The funding shocks of January 2025, and which continues, demonstrated this vulnerability. While many organizations were forced to suspend operations following abrupt funding reductions, RLOs continued supporting their communities despite having little or no access to humanitarian funding. Their resilience highlights why greater recognition and investment are needed. One promising example is the Ringo River's call for proposals, piloted by Norway. Rather than international organizations defining projects and local actors applying for funding, local organizations identify their priorities and the partnerships they need, while international organizations apply to support them. This moves beyond consultation. It represents a shift in agency and decision-making power, and offers a practical example of what meaningful participation can look like when power is intentionally rebalanced. In conclusion, the multi-stakeholder pledge demonstrates that progress is possible. Our challenge between now and GRF 2027 is to build momentum, to turn funding commitment into direct funding and shared capacity into shared decision-making and equitable partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I really like to echo your excellent point on the MRP and localization agendas being mutually reinforcing, especially in this period of hyper-prioritization. I think it's important that we realize that responsive refugee policies is just not possible without the meaningful input of the people who are directly impacted by those very same policies. Moving to our next speaker, we have Jay Adams, coming in from the government of New Zealand. He is the Senior Advisor on Refugee and Migrant Support. And Jay, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm joining you from a very cold and wet New Zealand at the moment with all sorts of rain and wind warnings. So if you hear that in the background, don't worry. I'm inside with a heater. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share what work New Zealand and in particular Immigration New Zealand, our immigration branch, has been doing to implement meaningful refugee participation. New Zealand is at a very exciting stage of making MRP a reality in all of our work. There's so much already going on. I'm proud to say we have so much going on that I won't be able to go into detail on all of it today, but I can give a high-level summary of some of the key pieces of work we're doing. So Immigration New Zealand has created a multi-year framework to strengthen meaningful refugee participation at the local, national, and international level. And having those three all linked and combined is really important to our understanding of implementing this fully. Beginning at the local level, one of our key initiatives is the Meaningful Refugee Participation Fund. This is a pool of money distributed to fund holders around the country to support local initiatives that enable meaningful refugee participation. We also have a small number of national fund holders, like the New Zealand Refugee Youth Council, who run leadership initiatives for young former refugees. And these fund holders hold the money, but they're not the decision makers of where that money goes. Local groups come together to decide what should be funded, and anything that can contribute to MRP is funded through those local fund holders. Additional to the MRP fund, we've also created a suite of local refugee resettlement steering groups around New Zealand. These are local level groups that bring together all the stakeholders who have a role to play in supporting former refugees locally, including former refugees themselves. Every local steering group has former refugee representation, and actually I'm excited to say things have progressed so well that now two of our biggest steering groups in Auckland, our biggest city, and Wellington, our capital, are chaired by former refugees and RLOs. And that allows that voice to come through the steering groups, which are fed together nationally every 6 months into a conversation, which is presented to senior officials from government who respond to those challenges that people are experiencing on the local level. Coming to the national levels, the cornerstone of our meaningful refugee participation work in New Zealand is the New Zealand Refugee Advisory Panel. The advisory panel is a group of usually 9, currently 8 members who bring a range of expertise related to refugee resettlement, as well as lived experience of displacement. The Refugee Advisory Panel works to support government decision makers and policy developers on matters impacting refugees in New Zealand by advising on the development of refugee policies, programs, and strategies. A big piece of my work day to day is coordinating the work of the New Zealand Refugee Advisory Panel and linking them in to government decision makers who are responsible for making those decisions related to our GRF pledges. What's also important is that the advisory panel they created New Zealand's definition of meaningful refugee participation, and they're the custodians of that definition. And we use that definition as the standard for all of our work. And I think also going forward, it would be amazing for the advisory panel to be included in this community of practice as well, to bring their expertise on meaningful refugee participation in New Zealand. At the international level, New Zealand has an agreement with the Refugee Advisory Panel that they will be part of any delegation to any international refugee-focused forum. Former refugees are a massive source of strength for our delegations, providing expertise and lived experience that improve the quality of New Zealand's contribution to the international stage. We had members of the Refugee Advisory Panel at the previous GRF, at the GRF progress review, and we'll have them at the GRF next year as well. We also have a member going to Oslo later this year as part of the CRCP working group. It's really important to us that they're part of those delegations because they bring experience and expertise that we can't. All of these pieces at the local, national, and international level fit together into a suite of programs and initiatives that are embedding MRP at all levels of New Zealand's GRF response, all levels of our work in the refugee space. MRP is almost so bread and butter to us at this point that it's not a question of whether we do it, it's a question of how we do it properly. I will acknowledge it isn't perfect yet. We still face challenges, particularly of linking the local to the national, and making sure that we're supporting people at that local level to create the talent that can come through to the Refugee Advisory Panel at the national level. But we're very optimistic about the direction of travel and very excited to keep sharing that as part of this forum.
Thank you so much, Jay. And I think the New Zealand example perfectly kind of illustrates the kind of fundamental objective of the pledge and the whole MRP movement, and to see it really embedded across the multi-levels is excellent. And I mean, just to tease a little bit, I think the example of the refugee councils being the fund holders is a really good one. We will have later community practice sessions where we unpack a little bit more on the funding modalities and how MRP might be embedded there. And we definitely will be very excited to also include members of your refugee advisory panel in the later session. So thank you very much. Next, we have a representative from the Family Reunification Pledge. Alex Strang coming in from also the Secretariat of the Global Family Reunification Network. Alix, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and it's lovely to be here and speak with Jay and Paul. It's already a really interesting discussion. So I am Alex, coming from the Secretariat of the Global Family Reunification Network, which is the kind of convener of the multi-stakeholder pledge supporting family reunification for refugees. So this pledge essentially mobilizes actors towards our pledge goal of helping 1 million refugees reunite with their families by 2030 through a variety of ways, which I won't go into now. This pledge is co-led by refugee-led organization Migration Inc. in the Netherlands, together with the government of Brazil and of Portugal, Refuge Point, my organization, DLA Piper, the global law firm, and the OECD. So really just to speak to the questions that I was asked to think about for this intervention, what does meaningful refugee participation look like within our area of work, and what kind of progress can we see since the GRF in 2023? I just wanted to share a couple of kind of overarching points and observations, which I and we consider to be small but really positive structural and kind of systemic shifts, which we have been working to institutionalize and preserve since 2023. So the first, well, just a sentence on the pledge. It's a group. The pledge community is around 40 pledgers, including 3 refugee-led organizations. The one I mentioned from the Netherlands, Migration Inc., one from Germany, the Somali diaspora in Deutschland, and one from Kenya, Youth Voices Community. And I just wanted to flag that these 3 and others have, these 3 RLOs have been actively involved in supporting family unification long before the pledge. from supporting individual families navigate procedures to engaging in really substantive high-level government advocacy and community awareness raising around the importance of access, facilitating access by refugees to this kind of, mainstream migration pathway, which is a challenge for refugees in many cases. So just to recognize that, our observations have been that the multi-stakeholder pledge mechanism, in our case, has really helped to elevate and spotlight their work that they have been doing already, vis-a-vis the pledge membership itself. And this has boosted their impact in two important ways. Firstly, it has linked them plus the RLO networks of which they are a part. So we're sort of bringing networks together. It has helped link them up to other bigger family unification actors, not bigger, but somehow better resourced, including, for example, pro bono lawyers from big law firms who are interested in supporting RLOs and other actors in improving access to family unification for refugees, pro bono law firms, international NGOs, and the related resources and opportunities for collaboration that support their own work and organizational development. So that kind of those linkages have really improved through this pledge mechanism. And it has also provided RLOs really direct access to global dialogue on the gaps and advances in family reunification, which many RLOs have a lot to say about. So these synergies and shifts that we observe have really been to the benefit of the family reunification support ecosystem that this pledge and the wider network of the FRUN, the Global Family Reunification Network, strives to deepen and expand and support. And so as a direct result of the visibility and the recognition gained by some of these RLOs through their pledge engagement, there have been some direct effects, and I'm going to just lay them out, the kind of practical, positive impacts of being able to spotlight and gain this and have this recognition of existing RLO engagement and work. The FRUN decided a year after 2023, so through the year during 2024, to secure funding for 2 permanent RLO seats in its leadership group to ensure their kind of continued influence in this kind of strategy discussions and the activities supported by the FRUN. And this is something that it will be sustained into the future. Similarly, an RLO and diaspora working group was established last year within the FRUN to really better channel and elevate the RLO expertise within the network and to respond to peer learning requests and offers to share learning. And the RLO working group leads also receive a good stipend in recognition of their time. And this we have found really promotes not only sustainability, but accountability all around, who's paying what for, this is kind of really putting RLO time and contributions on people's radar. And thirdly, we as a network have really invested significantly in ensuring strong in-person RLO participation and attendance at our annual conference, which is in a different place every year. This year it's in Geneva. And this conference, which is co-designed by refugee leaders in the network, has really, in my view, and I know it's shared widely, has become a real textbook example of the really great things that happen when refugees help set the agenda and participate as equals in this international multi-stakeholder space. They've really brought, the unique experience and knowledge of the procedures that we're all trying to grapple with. And they have welcomed connections and created moments of important dialogue with stakeholders with very different perspectives than theirs, and have known really how to communicate across cultures and across different stakeholder priorities with an energy and a humor that really has inspired our membership and led to a lot of better understanding by all stakeholders, including government officials who attend our events. So there's no doubt really that that kind of eloquent refugee leadership has really enriched our network, and the work of the front to as it kind of works to collectively uphold the right to family unity and preserve family reunification procedures and access by refugees to those procedures. And so we're really committed to continuing to acknowledge this reality and continuing to resource it as well in the years ahead.
Thank you, Alex. And I think it's particularly encouraging to see that the solidarity that the Family Reunification Pledge has with the ROs and to really spotlight their work. I think it's a great example of really utilizing the refugees like roots with the communities to help drive those policies forward, especially I think in the challenging environment right now in terms of the complementary pathways space as well. We have our next speaker from the government of the UK, Ophir Edelstein, who is the program manager for GCR and the migration program at the UK FCDO. Ophir, the floor is yours. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for inviting me to speak today. We are always happy to discuss meaningful refugee participation. It is a work in progress, as it is in most places, but we've made some great progress since 2023. Of course, most of our work falls under the MRP pledge itself, where we've partnered with APNOR to deliver some training to us at FCDO and also to another government agency that deals with resettled refugees in the UK, which has been very successful and has led to further steps and changes of mindset from feedback we got from attendees, which was really encouraging. We also, both in 2023 and at the program at the GRF last year, we had a refugee participant as part of our delegation. And we found her contribution very, very valuable. And we made, of course, ensured that she wasn't just there to speak. We involved her in our preparations. We involved her in speaking, but she had input into what she was saying alongside our representative. It was very important to us to make sure it was not any sort of tokenization. And we continue to be involved with her today. And we have been looking into an advisory panel like the one New Zealand has, and a few others, but we're still a little ways away from that, unfortunately. But we are actively looking at it as we understand the value of such an organization. So for now, we have more informalized input from refugees, but we hope to change that in future. Across the other GRF pledges, we have, I would say it's a mix of the depth of MRP, which I guess is to be expected, especially in the UK. Our government is quite decentralized. So unfortunately, it's a little hard to control and have oversight of everything from our perspective as the holders of the MRP pledge to the other departments that are doing some work on other pledges. But we have had pledges that have employed refugees to help with program management and design. We have had a pledge program that funded an advisory board for an organization that helps resettle refugees and provide skilled refugees with work in the UK. And we've had plenty of pledges where they've consulted refugees and taken into account their perspectives, both on the impact of the work already done to plan future stages and also to plan work not yet done, which, while good, is we know is not at the top of the ladder of MRP, but like I said, we're actively working on it. We also, as part of this, did we're very proud to have supported the inclusion of about 127 refugees at the progress review meeting in December alongside Switzerland and UNHCR. That is very much a point of pride for us. And we really appreciated how UNHCR made sure to provide training before and after and really involve the refugees. And we were really heartened to hear the feedback and read the reports after the event of how the participation has increased since the GRF. And we really hope to see it continue to increase for the next GRF and look forward to supporting that as best we can. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ophir. And I think the point on really preparing refugee delegates to meaningfully input is extremely important and speaks directly to one of, I think, the challenges we've wanted to flag for a long time on tokenistic participation. We don't want folks to just show up at the big moments, but really be prepared to contribute meaningfully and be enabled to do so. So thanks very much for that. Our final, but definitely equally important speaker is from the legal community pledge, Yuvraj Wathor from PillNet. Yuvraj, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Brian, and thanks for this invitation. It's really wonderful to hear what all the pledges are doing, and it's my pleasure to share about the legal community pledges experience, where we have not only we don't see meaningful refugee participation as a work stream, but we are seeing it as something that helps shape and design how we implement legal support through the pledge. At the 2023 GRF, when 125 members collectively came together, including states, NGOs, refugee-led organizations, law firms, academia, and bar associations, they committed to giving over 1 million forcibly displaced people 1 million hours of free legal assistance. And I mean, very happy to note that we already reached the target by 95% in 2025. And members not only committed to pro bono assistance, but also committed to increasing refugee hiring, inclusion in their work, but also involving people with lived experience in different different parts of their legal work. Which is where we saw our flagship sort of refugee clearinghouse, which is coordinated by PillNet, ensuring that RLOs are not just beneficiaries of this legal system, but they are partners in identifying priorities and also helping strengthen the legal ecosystem. We can see evidence of that through a few shifts since the GRF 2023. First, a lot of the legal requests we see are now coming directly from the RLOs rather than, referrals or third parties coming to the clearinghouse. Second, we are seeing a shift from one-off legal support to long-term partnerships that are building with law firms. The clearinghouse has supported more than 200 pro bono partnerships across 60 countries, and the engagement with RLOs has grown significantly. Just in terms of sort of the total number of RLO participations in the first year, we had none for the clearinghouse, but then in 2025, nearly half of the partnerships were with RLOs, which was about 27, if I can recall. So this shows that there's been a change in trend in how RLOs see the legal community's value in supporting their work, but also the legal community building this trust by working together with RLOs. And I mean, now sometimes we don't even get requests because the RLOs directly go to the law firms where they have built this strong relationships over the last few years. The third shift that we've seen is that a lot of the work that the legal community pledge does across its deliverables in the work plan has high value of refugee participation in programming and developing the outputs. So for example, we have our pitching roundtables where NGOs and civil society organizations pitch to law firms the project that they would like to receive support on. So this we've done in the UK, in the US, and in Europe, and we've seen 100% match rate through all the models, and are going to continue to do this in Asia and the US again this year. We also piloted a legal health check pilot in Malaysia and New Zealand, and this was co-designed with EPNOR, which included all the assessment tools, but also the key risks that the RLO sees are unique to them. And that's the perspective that really helped the law firms sort of improve upon the design of this pilot as well. And beyond this, a lot of the meaningful refugee participation trainings have been given to legal professionals because, of course, there was a gap that we noticed in GRF 2019, and I think that's been quite successful with the trends that we are seeing now. At the Pilnet Forum, which happens every year, there is the dedicated workshop for the pledge members to come together. This year, it's going to happen again in Cape Town in November. So we really hope to see law firms and civil society come together and share more practical solutions and how they can improve MRP in their process. And we also had a very successful MRP declaration that came out of the last pledge workshop. So, I mean, that's sort of just a high-level summary of the things that have been achieved. And there's a lot of challenges, of course, we understand that RLOs particularly face in terms of registration, compliance, and governance, where sometimes even law firms are not able to bridge that gap. And of course, in terms of resources, which are the priority in terms of needs for RLOs, where we see refugees need to be compensated for the expertise that they're bringing, and their organizations that they're leading need to be invested in. So I think that's where we really want the legal sector to shift as well. And we are seeing that shift happen, but of course, there's a long way to go. I'll just share a few links in the chat about some of the things that might be helpful for people to read, some of the impact pieces, and we invite you to join the Asia Pro Bono workshop that we are planning for August, in August, and also invite people to share the Pilnet Oxford University Fellowship for people with lived experience of displacement. So I'll end there, but thanks again for this wonderful session, and it was really great to hear from everyone.
Thank you, Raj. I think excellent example where the RLs are able to go directly to the law firms, and on the other hand, you kind of have legal professionals getting training on how to do MRP better. I think just to wrap up this segment, I mean, obviously we will have a recording of this session. We'll have notes circulated to everyone, but we really want to retain these really good practices that are highlighted to be able to cross-learn and cross-adopt where relevant. So thank you very much for all the speakers for really highlighting your MRP work. And I think for this next session, I am handing over to Muranga to kick us off on the interactive part of this session.
Thank you so much, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for those who are still in morning times. It's really amazing and hopeful the way we are moving, and I hope we are going to get some good stocks for the GRF 2027. Dear all, my name is Muranga Kandanda. I'm the Managing Director at Youth Initiative for Development. We are based in Kenya, specifically in Kakuma Refugee Camp. So this session will be interactive, a very interactive one, where we are going to be dispatched in different breakout rooms. And I will be having some discussions, topic discussions. Like the first one, we are going to explore aspects of meaningful refugee participation are most relevant to your work, specifically under the pledge. And what are the challenges you're currently facing in implementing participation commitments? We will also respond to what examples or experiences will be most valuable to learn from. Fourth, what themes should future community of practice session explore? Because this is the first one, this is the launch, and we are expecting to be having so many events of community of practices. Would like also to learn from you what themes should future community of practice sessions explore. And finally, what support, resources, or learning opportunities would help strengthen participation within your own contexts. So this having been said, I'm going to invite Renata if she can really pop up for us the breakout rooms, and we are going to have around 20 minutes of discussions regarding these topics. And from every breakout rooms, we are going to have one representative who will come back to the main room, and he or she'll have to share the feedback, the experiences, and the lessons that we have learned from the breakout rooms where we have been assigned. So Renata, kindly come up with the breakout rooms as we continue our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Moraga. Just to mention, it will be 15 minutes discussion because we have a bit delay.
Yes,
in
yes,
time.
yes, 15
Thank you.
minutes.
So
Yes,
we
yes.
start
Yeah.
with the breakout rooms.
Right.
Thank you. Muranga? Wait, okay, good. Hi, Adeline. Wait, I think I need to... you are in room 3. Hi, Dina. Was there any... You were kicked out of the room or
Sorry.
something?
Yeah, I was kicked out. And that's why I
Okay.
joined. I think I did not get into a
Let me
room.
see if I can again. Okay. And then... that's weird. Wait, I will
But
change
it's
the
okay. I
room.
can also wait here. No worries. And then
No
when they
worries.
come back, I will be back in.
I assign you to room 1. Let's see if it works
Okay.
with this one. I hope
Okay,
it
thank you.
works. Welcome. No? Yeah. Hello, Guillaume.
Hi, Renata.
Hi. Maybe you joined now?
No, I
Or
joined earlier, but I got kicked out. It's okay. I'll
Ah,
wait until everybody's back from the rooms.
as you want. If not, I can send you to a room.
No,
in
that's fine
case
because
you want.
I'll come so late into that conversation that it will be awkward.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks. That's not true.
Oh no, we are already back. It was so short.
Thank you so much, and welcome back to the main room. I'm telling you, the discussion was very interesting in the room where I was assigned, and very interesting to. We felt a bit hurt because promptly we were taken back to the main room, but we have to respect time. Thank you so much, Renata, for bringing us back in this room. So kindly, in the room where we've been assigned, I don't know, Renata, is everyone back in the main room?
It looks like it, Muranga.
Because I can see
Yes,
the
so
number
yeah,
has
I'm
reduced.
looking.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay. Thank you. As agreed, we have agreed to come back to the main room and have some 10 to 15 minutes of presentation of what has been discussed in the breakout rooms. And I think we have assigned an individual to come here back and present. From the room where I was assigned, we had Codrin from New Zealand. He has been assigned to present for us what has been discussed. Welcome here, and the floor is yours, dear Codrin. Maybe as we look forward to Codrin to connect, to come back, can we have the other breakout rooms and the assigned individual to give us some briefings from what they discussed?
Anila, do you want to go in?
Yes,
Oh, okay. We've
sure,
got
sure.
Ophir from our group.
Okay,
Sorry,
sure.
Anila, I'm just coming.
Yes,
I don't mind
Over to
volunteering
you,
to
Ophir.
go.
yeah.
To summarize our discussion, we mostly talked about challenges that we face. It seemed to be a common theme of a non-representative sample of governments that a big challenge is coordination between departments, and especially the coordination between the MRP on the global international stage versus at the national, and the need for that to be connected. But also there's some difficulties, especially since there's multiple agencies involved in leading different types of work. There's also mention of, obviously the political will and political instability in some senses. Changes in government always can push back progress, even if it doesn't, hopefully and usually doesn't stop it completely, but it does delay things. And also the nature of government and the difficulties of securing multi-year commitments is quite difficult, especially for something like an advisory board, which everybody might agree is a good thing to do, but then securing the multi-year commitments to compensate the refugees as they should be can be quite difficult due to the different regulations that are involved. There was also mention of challenges from other parties of identifying the refugees willing to participate, and the right refugees in the right context, because of course there's so many different lived experiences, and you want to make sure you get the right people involved and the right people's opinions, and finding the right people who have the time and the capacity and the will to be involved in your specific project, whatever you're going on, can be a bit difficult as well. So I think unless anybody else from our team wants to jump in with anything I missed, I think those were the main themes from our discussion.
Thank you so much from this side. I don't know, any other intervening person? Codrin, are you ready?
I'm happy to come in if we're not connecting
Yes.
through with Codrin.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually think that the main thing we talked about was similar to what Ophir said, and which is kind of that global national divide not really connecting. But we, in our group, specifically talked about this disconnect maybe manifesting and the fact that a lot of the contributions and the ROOs and the refugees who are able to participate are in places where communications infrastructure are a bit more developed, so that they're able to get in the room, so to speak, whether it is through kind of a room like this, where it's a remote setting, or actually, physically being able to access policy spaces in Geneva. Particularly for folks who are based in countries where perhaps things like internet connections aren't good, the infrastructure is not there to allow for good participation. The barrier is still there, where they are excluded from the conversations purely because the tech isn't there to enable it. And there needs to be a specific resource that is kind of set aside to bridge this gap. Otherwise, I think we risk leaving behind a lot of the folks that are not hosted in countries with the right infrastructure to make participation happen. I also think this maybe translates into the broader point of kind of looking at participation, not just as participation per se, but look at all of the enabling factors to make participation happen. We didn't specifically talk about this, but apart from, for example, like internet access, I think there are still things like visa restrictions, travel restrictions, obviously travel costs, to be able to bring people into relevant policy spaces where they could meaningfully contribute. That's still quite, I think, lagging behind, certainly from the perspective of an independent diplomat, where we try to bridge some of these gaps. I think we had a very lively discussion, but the time was really short. So I think if I have other colleagues in my group who want to come in to maybe complement some of these points, please feel free.
Ryan, as for the interest of time, I'd like to give the floor to the other breakout room so that, yeah.
Thank you, Moringa. I will present the discussion from our group. So we have very quickly went through, almost like touch upon all the question, but though it was a very short time. So we have an amazing progress example from the South Sudan, where our colleagues, they are advancing, especially for the leadership of a refugee women-led organization. And also they are shared how since 2024, they are trying beyond consultation and to moving into the leadership role and giving them trainings and also giving them fundings, which is very appreciated. And we as a refugee women-led organization really need. So they share their progress and their work. When it's come to also we have how legal pathways and legal discussion is connecting the work, but we also touch upon the challenges. And in the challenges, we really see how we change the narratives, how we can change the mindset is a big challenge in our work, and how we. And second challenge was that one of our colleagues from, especially from Europe, they said meaningful participation, unfortunately, been decentralizing is not becoming like priorities to working in Europe. So it's really alarming for us how we can face this challenge working in European context. And also one of the colleagues shared the when it's come to project funding. So when project ends, all the work has been done for advancing the meaningful participation is become like in the space how we can advance this work, because we don't have funds or funding when projects end. So how we can create more alternatives when we are moving this engagement. And one challenge was also mentioned, like the issue of both sides of technical issues for the host communities, for the different engagement of the stakeholders and different entity when they have their own difficult understanding of technical issues. So how we can bring to address the both ends. And one of the ask which was put there, how we can create more learning from each other. Like there are few entities who have a handbooks when it's come to even legal aid or different kind of suggestion. So how we can generate more exchange. I think that's what we are doing right now, how we are creating learning from each other, and also appreciation from the different officials, like from New Zealand, how we can learn from them to encourage other governments official, other country-led organization, how they can learn from each other when it's come to official to engaging a meaningful participation and different angle. So this came in our group, and yes, over to you, Moringa.
So much, Anila. Thank you so much, colleagues. It's been a really amazing session, and I'm telling you honestly from the bottom of my heart, we need to have so many community of practices to learn more and to share more. With this being said, I really thank everyone for the participation, and I'm ending my part by this point. And I'd like to get back to you, Anila, so that you can continue with the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Moringa. Oh, wow. Thank you, everyone. It was a really, really amazing discussion and encouragement. I know we all are already going to the summer vacation, especially for the people in Europe, but I think I really want to sincerely thank all of you for your active participation, for joining this discussion. The 2 hours went very quickly, and really especially want to thanks to our speakers for sharing very practical examples, their experience, how they are creating this across the pledges ecosystem. Everyone who contributed during this breakout discussion, your openness, sharing the challenges, your ideas, it was really what we need. And also a special thanks, especially to our government's refugee-led organization, UNHCR, civil society, international organization, and many others who joined to show the diversity, the coalition we really want to bring, and to create more grace trend, because advancing meaningful participation requires all of us. That's what we hear from our different partners who really, share. I was taking few notes, which I'm gonna share. Like when I hear how we can converting challenge to the opportunities, and how we really want to connect. That's what we hear. Everyone learn from each other. Everyone say how we keep the momentum, how we learn, we are making a different advisory panels, how we are creating delegations to the different occasion of the global level, how we are advancing even women refugee leadership, and how we are really creating a practical direct impact from this thing, and how we going beyond consultation work, how we are also touching upon the legal actions as our fellows to advance our work. So it's really thing. And I really want to also say how we can understand the challenges to ensure meaningful participation happens from the beginning. How we learn, how we're creating more sustainable partnership is still a challenge. And also we really want to see how we're ensuring that all the participation leads to the tangible change in our policies, programs, and what we want to do. Ensuring meaningful participation is really require partnership, and ensuring the participation leads more community of practice. So this community of practice, what we are doing is really not only reporting mechanism, but also how we can checking with the reality organization have fulfilled their commitment, but also how they are having this will, this passion where we are standing. So this is a place where we are exchanging openly without any kind of pressure, but learning. So future of the session, what we're gonna do after this meeting, we're gonna share our summary with all of you, but also in upcoming weeks, we are working on it, trust us, with our limited resources and capacity, but we will share a survey, your feedback, evaluation, and your suggestion, because we really, really want to keep this discussion openly and to learn from each other, and also support each other in our commitment, in our ambition when it's come to meaningful participation. So please do give your inputs, your suggestion, and also how many times do you want to have this kind of discussion when it's come to community of practice, because we really, really want feel connected and to feel the reality checks. So I look forward from hearing many of you again in our second community of practice session, and we wanna practicing the meaningful participation, co-design the agenda, co-design the dates with you. So please give your feedback to us, and still if you have any question, any suggestion, and learn from our co-leads about meaningful participation, please, you know where to find us, reach out to us. And thank you so much, all of you, and have a lovely week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so
Bye.
much,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
joining.
Have a nice week.